Prick up your ears.
The sound of DTM.
My car sounds like music to my ears.
My favorite sound when the car is leaving the pits.
My favorite sound, the cheering of the fans.
Crank it up.
My favorite sound? The silence before the lights go green.
Full blast.
Downshifting from full speed. When I rev up my engine to its absolute limit. Too close to cool. Cheering on the podium.
Be aware.
It's gonna be loud.
Hello and welcome to Moscow. It is day 2 in racing and we're absolutely thrilled to burn some rubber in just a bit. And the man who won here in Moscow 2 years ago is Maxime Martin, but unfortunately you were very, very unlucky today in the qualifying. Can you just explain to us what happened and why you're being excluded from the qualifying now?
Yeah, so at the end I had a good qualifying, at least for the beginning. I was on pole, but I lost the car in turn 7, which is the quick corner. And I went off in the gravel and hit the barriers. So at the end we have to repair the car. And there is a regulation with the Parc Fermé regulation, which the time was too short for us to repair, so we had to start the repair before the Parc Fermé ended. And so we need to start from pit lane. So it means we are going to start last from pit lane. So I think the race is more or less over. But yeah, it's like it is. It's a regulation, which, yeah, it is like it is, and now we have to push and try to have at least some fun.
Thank you so much, Maxime. Best of luck anyway. And I guess the mechanics are still going to work hard till the beginning of the race. But before we look at the race today, let's have a look at race 1 from yesterday.
Thanks very much, Verena, as they work so hard. Weather conditions today somewhat different, as you can see, to yesterday. Let's take a look at race 11, which was... The downpour was so heavy, the rain so consistent that the race was started behind the safety car. When eventually the safety car was released and the cars were allowed to go racing, well, the Mercedes Fest from qualifying was expected to stay exactly that way, all the way to the checkered flag. Well, it did, but not without some changes, as you can see. Robert Wickens very early on making his way past Gary Paffett to take up P1, and once he got his nose in front, he was up the road. Eduardo Mortara and DTM newcomer Felix Rosenquist trading places there. Next to get past the Paffett machine was that of Paul Di Resta, so same manufacturer, just different 1, 2, 3 now. Running very, very wide was the number 22 car of Lucas Au, another one of the Mercedes drivers, and Eduardo Mortara had a bit of an off as well, but was able to recover from there. The conditions were absolutely treacherous, but one man that was not having a problem at all was Robert Wickens, who had in excess of 10 seconds up the road in front of Paul Di Resta and Gary Paffett. Paul Di Resta making good from this little incident where he escaped onto the runoff area. Eduardo Mortara there, and there is Maxime Martin, but Eduardo Mortara in the Audi, and Jamie Green also managing to find his way past the number 10 car of Timo Scheider. Jamie Green desperate to put as many points on the board as possible, of course, and was chasing down Maxime Martin for P6, but Robert Wickens did not put one foot wrong in atrocious weather conditions for Mercedes-Benz, and really looked in a class all of his own, really. So Matthias Ekstrom and Maxime Martin running P5 and P6, but crucially running P1 all the way to the checkered flag. Robert Wickens took the win, and you can see just how long it is before another car made it even into the start-finish straight. There was delight all round from Mercedes-Benz, but Robert Wickens was the victor, and he's with Verena now.
Robert, yesterday you had a brilliant day winning the race. You're leading the championship, 3 points ahead of Wittmann, and today you're starting in P3. Do you think you'll be able to extend the leadership, or is it going to be a really tough race?
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to be an easy race, but yeah, the goal is to try and lead with the points lead still. So my main rival is directly in front of me here, and hopefully we can get a good start and try and make stuff happen.
I've got to say, you seem pretty relaxed.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy the last little while. So, you know, we've had some ups and downs this year, but we've shown that we can bounce back from anything and come back strong. And I'm so proud of my team so far for what we've done. And yeah, we just need to try and get the job done today and again, leave with the points lead, because yeah, the next few races will be tough.
All right, well, best of luck, Robert. Dave?
Very much, Verena. Let's see what Robert can do from there then. As he says, his arch rival in the points is right ahead of him. Marco Wittmann, pole position. Robert Wickens going from P3 on the grid. And here is the grid in full for you. And there is the Marco Wittmann car. Alongside him, though, the Brit driver Tom Blomqvist goes from P2. Then we see yesterday's race winner, Robert Wickens, and Bruno Spengler, good qualifying from him. He will go from P4. Then it's Daniel Juncadella and Augusto Farfus on the next row of the grid. Row 4 sees Timo Glock and Maximilian Gertz. Rich vein of form for Gertz this weekend as well. Lucas Auer P9 and Antonio Felix da Costa from P10. Paul di Resta on the podium yesterday. A lot of work to do from P11. Nico Muller is alongside in P12. Felix Rosenquist making his DTM debut this weekend, P13. Matthias Ekström, P14. Then we see Miguel Molina and Christian Vitoris before Eduardo Mortara and Adrien Tombe, 2 Audis together, P17 and P18. Another 2 Audis with Jamie Green and Mike Rockenfeller. Then we see Gary Paffett and Martin Tomczyk. Paffett on the podium yesterday, just P21 to start today. Timo Scheider and Maxime Martin. So Verena has the pole sitter, Marco Wittmann.
Marco is already tucked into the car, very well concentrated, I'm sure. Marco, yesterday P19, today pole position. It's a whole new day. Do you think you're going to fight back the leadership of the championship? I mean, it's going to be pretty tough with your main rival right behind you, breathing down your neck perhaps.
Yeah, definitely. But the plan is clearly to make a good race, a good start. I think we have the pace and the dry conditions as we've shown in the free practice and qualifying. So I'm pretty confident. Yesterday was a bad day, so it's time to change it.
All right. Best of luck, Marco. Back to you, Dave.
Thanks very much, Verena. And Marco making the point there that they've got the pace in the dry. And the lingering cloud still lingers. We've not seen any rain yet. Depending upon who you speak to in the paddock, whether rain is expected during the course of the race or not, I would say that the odds are that yes is the answer to the question. As we look at all smiling Maximilian Gertz, who's going from P8, did a good job yesterday to finish the race P4. Really was part of the Mercedes fest at the front. Didn't make it onto the podium, but did a good job there for P4. P7 then is Timo Glock, the Deutsche Post BMW driver, former Formula One star in the all-yellow machine that you can see there, going from P7. I'm just keeping my eyes on the garages from the commentary position here up high in the grandstand to see whether Maxime Martin does make it to the back of the grid or whether he'll be starting from the pit lane. As we look at Augusto Farfus then, going from P6. Better qualifying from Augusto. See what he can do from there. BMW really looking very, very strong in qualifying this morning. Short, sharp qualifying session, which was punctuated by Maxime Martin into the tyre barriers. Verena speaking to him just a few moments ago. Thankfully, he was all okay, and there's nothing wrong with the car prior to that instant. It was a complete driver error for which he held his hands up. Daniel Juncadella, good qualifying for the Spaniard, going from P5. Daniel Juncadella then is at P5 on the grid for Mercedes-Benz. And ahead of Daniel Juncadella is Bruno Spengler, the BMW driver that will be going from P4. The assembled grid of DTM cars ready to start. Race number 12 in the 2016 season sees the BMW lockout on the front row with Marco Wittmann and Tom Blomqvist. Split then by Mercedes-Benz with Robert Wickens going from P3 before we find another BMW P4, Bruno Spengler. Rest of the grid, as you can see on screen. Final preparations being made down there on the grid ahead of the race getting underway. So Bruno Spengler then P4. Very much hoping to get his season back on track here in Moscow. And he's going from P4 on the grid. Audi's Dieter Gas is with Verena now.
Yes, and Dieter Gas is still looking up into the sky. We're not quite sure about the weather, but the best Audi, Nico Miller in P12. So that's not looking too promising. Are you struggling with something, or what is the problem?
Well, I think today we struggle a little bit to switch our tires on. We know that our car is reasonably soft on the tires, which gives us a good possibility to do long stints in the race and have a good consistency. But sometimes it's a bit of a problem in the qualifying session on a track like this, where you don't put too much energy in the tire. Sometimes we struggle to switch them on, and I think that's what has happened this morning.
So it's going to be a long and tough race, but I'm sure you have a pretty good strategy.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. We never give up, and we won't today. So we see what we can do with the strategies. Again, this will be difficult to predict what everybody does, so we need to be ready and react and try to pick up whatever we can.
All right, best of luck. Thank you very much, Dieter Gas, and back to you, Dave.
Thanks very much, Verena. Interesting how Dieter was looking at the skies as well. Strategy, well, of course, it can play a part in this race because it is the 1 hour race with the mandatory pit stop, and Marco Wittmann, the man on pole position in that BMW. So Marco Wittmann having done a brilliant job in qualifying to put the car pole position. Just a 10th ahead of Tom Blomqvist, who is alongside him at P2. So very good qualifying from BMW. In the Drivers' Championship, it is that slender 3-point lead for Robert Wickens. Marco Wittmann on 105, Robert on 108, and then Jamie Green just a point behind Wittmann, who is P3 in the points, but is starting way down the order, P19. So work to do for Jamie Green in the all-orange Audi that you can see just ahead of the Gary Paffett car down there on the grid. Talking of Gary Paffett, we're talking about Mercedes, and the head of DTM for Mercedes is Uli Fritz with Verena.
Yep, I've got him right here. So, Uli Fritz, it's going to be a pretty interesting race, I think. I mean, Wickens in P3, and right ahead of him is Wittmann. And do you think we're going to see a real fight between the two main competitors today in the DTM?
Yeah, I think we'll see. I think a lot of the development of the race depends on how the start works. So actually, it will be exciting for sure. And I mean, having those two guys in front of the grid is just good for the fans. And yeah, I think we will see interesting racing, hopefully.
And just between you and me, are you pretty relaxed, or are we going to see some nail biting today?
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's going towards the end of the season, and of course, there's a lot of tension, and yeah, we just push and make the best out of it.
Right, well, best of luck, Uli Fritz, and back to you, Dave.
Thanks very much, Verena. End of the season, Uli. We've still got 6 races to do after this one. Well, we will see what Robert Wickens can do from P3. Of course, the best Mercedes hope right at the front of the pack, and currently leading the points championship by that slender margin over Marco Wittmann, P2, Jamie Green, P3, and Eduardo Mortara still in the mix, P4 as well. There is the Maxime Martin car. Engineers having done a terrific job to repair that car and at least get him out into the race. Of course, his position in qualifying was nullified by virtue of the fact they had to take the car out of Parc Fermé and get to work on it straight away. So there you can see that he will start from the pit lane once the cars have all got away. But at least Maxime Martin is in the race. Wasn't necessarily a given because only 3 engineers under the regulations are allowed to work on the car any given time just ahead of the race, and there was only a very small margin of time with which to make the repairs necessary. But they've done it, and the cars roar away now is utterly deafening. Jürgen Abt and Dieter Gass and Wolfgang Ulrich in the Audi garage as they make their way through turn number 1. And snake from side to side and weave to try and generate some temperature into the tyres. The grid once again in graphics for you. Wittmann, Blomqvist, Wickens, Spengler, Juncker-Deher, Farfus, Glock, and then Maximilian Goertz rounding out the top 8. Then we find Lukas Sauer, Antonio Felix da Costa, Paul de Resta, Nico Müller. Then it's Rosenqvist, Ekstrom, Molina, and Vitoris, the next 8 on the grid. Before Mortara, Tombe Green, Rockenfeller, Paffett, Tomczyk, Scheider, and Maxime Martin then, who from the pit lane has made it to the very back of the grid. There's Jens Marquardt. And, well, the BMW team's having to do quite some work on the Maxime Martin car, but they've achieved it, and he is at least in the race. Not starting where he would like to, but see what he can do from being right at the back of the pack. This is the long stretch from turn 12 up to turn 13, 3.9 kilometer circuit. The lap record set by Miguel Molina back in 2014 at 1:32.411. Turn 13 is one of the most likely places to see overtakes during the course of this 60-minute race, with air temperature of just 21.5 degrees, and I say just because it has been warmer than that. Track temperature is just a shade under 25 degrees. So the cars rev and light up the rear tyres as they make their way to the grid boxes, and we'll hear Marco Wittmann being guided into his box, I'm sure. Inch perfect, guided by race engineers. Casalo there to the left of that picture. Of course, he's head of the Russian Formula 4, which are also racing here at Moscow over this weekend. As we go into each of the manufacturers' garages to see the tension and apprehension begin to build ahead of the start of the race. So once we get the green flag from the marshal at the rear, the engine notes rise, and the start sequence gets underway. There are the lights. They're out and we are away and racing. Daniel Juncker-Deher trying to make a move straight away. Robert Wickens also taking a look at Tom Blomqvist as they go into turn number 2, but wasn't able to make it stick. Marco Wittmann doing exactly what he needs to do, and that's to try and get up the road as quickly as possible. Augusto Farfus in the mix there as well, running in P6 right behind Daniel Juncker-Deher, and Timo Glock and Maximilian Goertz very, very close together as well. But Wittmann is up the road. Side by side, Christian Vitoris and Miguel Molina, and already Maxime Martin has made a place up by getting past Mike Rockenfeller from the back of the pack. Cars all steam in. Gary Paffett there with Jamie Green. P18 and P19. Maxime Martin having a go at Timo Scheider as well, as looks like there was a little bit of contact there on the Timo Glock car. Lucas Sauer was involved in that, and Auer's got past. It's off of turn 12. And they head up towards turn 13 now. Big dive up the inside there from Daniel Juncker-Deher, but was carrying so much speed that Bruno Spengler was able just to tuck in, and be a big ask with Daniel Juncker-Deher carrying so much speed there, and he wasn't able to make it stick. Felix Rosenqvist out to the runoff area and into the clutches of Miguel Molina. There's our race leader, Marco Wittmann. P2 is Tom Blomqvist. P3 then is Robert Wickens, who's not able to make any impression on the BMW ahead of him at the moment. Wittmann, in the space of one lap, has built a 1.5 second margin. Felix Rosenqvist under pressure from Martin Tomczyk now. So the order on the left-hand side of the screen for you, BMW 1 and 2, as they were right at the very start, with Robert Wickens trying to keep in touch, at least with Tom Blomqvist. DRS has been enabled now, and with Wittmann 1.5 seconds up the road, that leaves Blomqvist vulnerable potentially to Robert Wickens to make a move on this straight between 12 and 13, but Wickens, I don't think, is close enough. He's going to take a look at the inside, but it's not close enough to be able to do anything there. There's the possibility to run side by side. You can see the DRS being deployed and undeployed. Resta and Antonio Felix da Costa. Resta tracking every move that da Costa makes. Eduardo Mortara behind him, and behind Eduardo Mortara is Matthias Ekström. We go on board with Eduardo Mortara now. Coming down there in P12, P4 in the points going into this race, and he's out of the points at the moment in P12, so Mortara with work to do. On board with Timo Glock, who's running in P8. The Lucas Auer Mercedes-Benz ahead of him. Robert Wickens now reeling in. The Tom Blomqvist car is closer than he has been. Wittmann extending his lead by another 3/10 up the front. There he is. So Wittmann making haste his escape up the road. For all his worth, Robert Wickens, yesterday's race winner, trying to keep with Tom Blomqvist here.
Gap to the car behind, 1.5.
So Wickens then up this long uphill section. Even with DRS deployment, not able to make a move on Tom Blomqvist ahead. Wittmann extends his lead by another 5/10. Of course, the reason for that is that Tom Blomqvist is having to focus on defending against Robert Wickens. So it is really playing into the hands of Marco Wittmann, who is able to get up the road. Mike Rockefeller under investigation, as you can see, for a potential jump start. Rocky currently down there, plumb last at the moment, running in P24. Well, we've seen in of the race yesterday, the race conditions, though, somewhat different to today, and where Mercedes were really, really dominant in the rain. The conditions bone dry at the moment. Robert Wickens doing everything he can to stay with that BMW of Tom Blomqvist. Equally, Daniel Juncadella trying to do the same with Bruno Spengler. On board here with Eduardo Mortara. Ahead is Paul di Resta and Antonio Felix da Costa. They're continuing their fight over the final points paying position. Again, Robert Wickens is nothing like close enough to Tom Blomqvist. The big train of cars as Antonio Felix da Costa is tracked the whole way by Paul di Resta. Through turn 1, down towards turn 2 they go. Well, Wittmann up the road, as you can see, to the tune of 2.7 seconds, and then Blomqvist and Wickens also having broken away by about 1.5 seconds from Bruno Spengler, and then the pack that follows, including Juncadella, Farfus. Then it is Auer and Timo Glock. Maximilian Gertz in the points, P9. Antonio Felix da Costa, P10, and Paul di Resta chasing him hard. We continue to watch this battle that's going on over P2, where For my money, Robert Wickens looks a bit closer to Tom Blomqvist now than he has on the previous 2 laps. Is he going to be able to do anything? Blomqvist's exit from turn 12 really seems to be very, very strong indeed. And no further action going to be taken on Mike Rockenfeller, who has made it up to P22. Wickens just takes a look at the inside of Tom Blomqvist, but again, not quite close enough. He can potentially have another go if he's close going into turn number 1, but I don't think he is able to do so. A brief message from Rob Wickens then on the team radio. Jamie Green there running in
stand by.
P16. On board with him now. Up ahead of him is the Miguel Molina car, and ahead is Nico Muller and Matthias Ekström and Eduardo Mortara. So they're the Jamie Green car. And we're on board with Eduardo Mortara now, closing in on Antonio Felix da Costa. And there is our race leader.
Okay, Rob, if you think you can overtake, use DRS. If you think you can overtake, use DRS.
So Robert being advised to use the DRS then if he thinks.
They're so fast on the straight.
And there is the problem, to be fair. Blomqvist on the straight really is able to get away despite the advantage DRS gives to Robert Wickens. Blomqvist doing a super job in P2 at the moment. And that's really helping Marco Wittmann, who is 4 seconds up the road now. There, the order on the left-hand side of your screen. What that doesn't tell you is the margin of comfort that Marco Wittmann has. As I said, look at it. It's visible, 4.1 seconds over this man, Tom Blomqvist, who's running in P2.
1.2.
So Spengler not able to trouble Robert Wickens at the moment. And therefore, Robert is able to focus and concentrate on trying to get ever closer to Tom Blomqvist and to try and make a move on him, but certainly hasn't happened. Sort of slow-mo of the start then. Nico Muller with a torrid start. Maxime Martin, of course, right at the back of the pack. Able to watch it all unfold, but pretty quickly was able to make up some places as well. Very unhappy Hans-Jürgen Abt. You see it from on board with Timo Glock. Eduardo Mortara very nearly into the back of Molina, gets up the inside of Molina and following the car of Nico Muller. Here is the race leader, Marco Wittmann then. Last time around was just a 10th, under 5 seconds up the road from this man, Tom Blomqvist P2, then it's Robert Wickens P3. Jamie Green running P15, who's funnily enough got past Molina, and this is how it happened. So Jamie Green, of course, who's running
okay, Rob, you have
in
14
the
more
points
laps of DRS
P3.
lap.
Crucial to get as many points as he
33
possibly
laps to go,
can.
just about.
And that means getting some and trying to cut his way through the pack to at least get into the points. He's got Nico Müller and Matthias Ekstrom ahead of him. Both, of course, Audi drivers. And Eduardo Mortara as well, but Eduardo Mortara himself is in the championship chase also. So from a team's point of view, going to be very interested to see how they manage that, but there is the Jamie Green car running in P15. Nico Müller ahead, P14. All the way ahead, though, in the lead is Marco Wittmann. 5 seconds to the good over Tom Blomqvist, P2.
DRS strategy.
He's inquiring over DRS strategy and needs to try and find something, but the pace the BMWs have is phenomenal.
Use the DRS up until the pit stop. Use the DRS up until the pit stop.
On board with Paul di Resta, as Robert Wickens is told to use DRS up until the pit stop. Paul di Resta running in P9, chasing the BMW of Timo Glock. Brilliant onboard shot to show you of the driver hard at work inside that Mercedes-Benz car. So Felix Rosenqvist then being given the black and white warning flag for pushing another driver effectively out. Forcing another driver to leave the track, so first warning in his DTM career. Felix Rosenqvist currently running down there, P21. Fantastic splitter cam shot here in replay of Antonio Felix da Costa being passed by Paul di Resta. It was a wee bit earlier on in the race, of which we've had very nearly 15 minutes of already. And still Wickens tracking Tom Blomqvist for all he's worth, but isn't close enough. Mortara lining up Antonio Felix da Costa ahead, and there is Jamie Green, who has managed to get past Nico Müller, as well as Miguel Molina. And here we can see with Jamie Green then, all the way around the outside and into turn number 1, passes Nico Müller. So we're on board with Edo Mortara then, who is running in P12. He's got Antonio Felix da Costa ahead of him, and now Robert Wickens. Now that is the closest we've seen him. Is he going to line one up here for turn number 1? DRS is deployed. Robert Wickens, Tom Blomqvist blocks and makes sure the inside line is not available to him, but this is the closest we've seen Robert Wickens on Tom Blomqvist all race long. This is the fight that's going on for P2. Marco Wittmann 6.3 seconds up the road. Well, Blomqvist did a good job in making sure he protected the inside line going into turn 1, which was where Rob really wanted to put the car. But that opportunity was denied. That was certainly the best we've seen of Robert Wickens in terms of him trying to find a way past the BMW ahead. Credit to Tom Blomqvist as well for, under immense pressure, not yielding and not making any mistakes at all. Right, Jamie Green now, who we're on board with, has got Matthias Ekstrom and Eduardo Mortara ahead of him. Now, bear in mind that Eduardo Mortara's P4 in the points as well. Jamie Green appreciated his P3 in the points. Matthias Ekstrom is P7, and therefore, arguably, could afford to sacrifice perhaps for the benefit of Jamie Green. We will see. All academic, really, because not in the points at the moment, but needless to say, that is what has happened. Jamie Green has got past Matthias Ekström. And now the chase is on to Eduardo Mortara. So Jamie Green running in P13 and start-finish straight. The outside, almost a mirror image of what he did to Nico Müller. And there we can see it again from a different angle. So Green then is on the charge. Mortara has been given the hurry up and has found a way past Antonio Felix da Costa. So now it's Green's turn to put the BMW into the target sights. So off the back of turn 12 then. And Eduardo Mortara then on Antonio Felix da Costa. Job done. Jamie Green to the inside now. Antonio Felix da Costa turns in. And there's contact between the two of them. And that sends Antonio Felix da Costa spinning out. There was some bodywork came off the front of the Jamie Green car. That may hamper his efforts now as Matthias Ekström was back on terms with him. Could just see that coming, couldn't you? So that is under investigation straight away. Jamie Green firing up the inside, and then Antonio Felix da Costa, he was just completely unaware of the fact that Jamie was there, just turns in.
Did Green push you out? Did Green push you out?
And, well...
Yeah, Green pushed me out. My rear left is damaged, completely out of tow. Steering wheel is not straight anymore.
So then the rear of the Antonio Felix da Costa car is out of tow, as he says, and as far as he's concerned, Jamie Green pushed him out. Well, from the angle we saw, it looked like Jamie Green had got that inside line, and whether Antonio was just completely unaware of the fact that Jamie was there. The incident is under investigation, and the car of Jamie Green continues. There's some damage. One of the aeroflicks, I think, flew off the car.
Okay, we just stay focused and keep going.
Jamie staying focused and keep going then. Marco Wittmann in. And Jamie gets a drive-through penalty for causing a collision. So race stewards have judged that Jamie was at fault there. And he will get a drive-through penalty.
Okay, you got a drive-through, Jamie. So fast cars behind.
Well, it all busies up as cars come in for pit stops. Marco Wittmann choosing to come in straight away. So nominally that means Tom Blomqvist leads the race now from Robert Wickens. Jamie Green then gets the drive-through penalty for the incident we saw. Timo Scheider, 2.9 second stop from the Phoenix team. There is our race leader, and there is P2. So Blomqvist then effectively leading this race, and of course what he has got is a completely clear track ahead of him, which to be fair he's had anyway because Marco Wittmann was so far up the road. And it's going to take some mighty strategic work, I think, from Mercedes-Benz to get Robert right onto the back of Tom Blomqvist. Of course, what it's meant is that Marco Wittmann is back out, but mired in traffic. In comes Timo Glock. There's Eduardo Mortara. Also coming in is the Mercedes-Benz Danny Juncadella. Slight problem there with the Glock pit stop, 4.1 seconds. Juncadella out in just 2.8. Here comes Jamie Green. Now, presumably, this is the drive-through penalty that Jamie is taking. Absolutely so. So his drive-through done and dusted. Still got to do his mandatory pit stop, has Jamie Green. So that really has scuppered his points haul chances. Plenty of drama in this race, that's for sure. Contact between himself and Antonio Felix da Costa. Well, Jamie adjudged to have caused an avoidable collision and therefore gets that drive-through penalty. Back out on track.
And also getting a vibration on the steering. Servo temperature is extended.
So Robert concerned with a vibration on the steering then, and neither Robert Wickens or Tom Blomqvist come in. Staying out there. Those that have been in, Marco Wittmann, who's back out and is running in P12. Gadea, Auer, Glock and Timo Scheider have all been into the pits. Jamie Green has as well, but that was for his drive-through penalty. On board with Eduardo Mortara then. Up the inside of the Maximilian Goertz. Contact between the two of them. Goertz then out onto the runoff area. See it again. Dives up the inside of Maximilian Goertz. And that's where the contact is. That around turn 13. So we're on board with Eduardo Mortara running in P6. And that incident between himself and Maximilian Goertz is under investigation as well. So Eduardo Mortara going for the inside. Maximilian Goertz about to turn in. Think that he realised that Edo was there and there was contact between the two of them, but whether that's because of Goertz turning in or whether
okay, Max, keep using your DRS. We have plenty.
Eduardo
we need
Mortara
good pace against the car that stopped.
Was just got a bit of push going through turn 13. Right, use DRS, Max. You've got plenty left. There is Paul de Resta, who we go on board with now, running in P5. Chasing down the Augusto Farfus car ahead, which is running in P4. So Maximilian Goertz gets a 5-second pit stop penalty for causing a collision. Interesting. From the commentary box, I can see that Jamie Green is back in again. There he is. This time it's for the real deal pit stop rather than the drive-through penalty. Grass all over the front of the car. It wasn't a blistering stop from the Rosberg team, but he's back out again, and Tom Blomqvist cutting a fine swathe here now, nearly 2 seconds ahead of Robert Wickens. Neither of them choosing to come in quite yet. So Blomqvist, Wickens, then it should be Bruno Spengler, and then it's Augusto Farfus. Matthias Ekstrom taking a look at Maximilian Goertz. It's a huge lock up there for the Adrien Tombe car. Jamie Green now under investigation. It never rains, but it pours, this time for exceeding the pit lane speed limit. Ain't gonna be his day, is it? So there is the margin between Robert Wickens in P2 and Marco Wittmann, who of course very early on did his pit stop, is going to be so much traffic that Marco Wittmann is mired in, and of course Tom Blomqvist and Robert Wickens out there with clear tracks. Jamie Green gets another drive-through penalty. It's 3 times.
Okay, we got another drive-through for exceeding speed limit.
3 times in the pit lane for Jamie Green now. Well, that has completely ruined any chances of him taking a points haul out of this race. So Matthias Ekström battling very hard with Maximilian Goertz. Goertz himself getting a 5-second pit stop penalty. That time will be added to his pit stop. Just taking a look at the inside. And this time, if he can stay committed to this, and he's got the momentum, both he and Nico Müller could go through at turn 1. Goertz is out wide, and indeed so. So Maximilian Goertz losing 2 places in 1 there, because Nico Müller, right on the back of Matthias Ekström, was able to take advantage of the move that Matthias Ekström engineered on Maximilian Goertz. So Goertz then loses out on 2 places. Now this is how it was set up right to the final turn, but remaining absolutely committed and with the momentum, Matthias Ekström was able to go through, and following in the hole that had been created was Nico Müller, and Maximilian Goertz was powerless to defend against it. So for the 3rd time of asking, Jamie Green comes through the pit lane. That his 2nd drive-through penalty. First one was for causing a collision. 2nd one was for exceeding the pit lane speed limit. Don't, for goodness sake, cross the white line, Jamie. No, he didn't, so. And in comes Robert Wickens. So we need a blistering stop from the HWA team here. See where Marco Wittmann is on track. Oh, no, no, no. That was an awful one. 5.3 seconds. Well, Wittmann is a mile ahead. Here comes Eduardo Mortara. 2.8, you see, and compare that to the Robert Wickens stop of some 5.3 seconds. There's Eduardo Mortara back out on track again. Still to stop, Blomqvist, Spengler, Farfus, De Resta, Ekström, Müller, Goertz, Tombe, Martin, Molina, Tomczyk, Vitoris, Paffitz, Rockenfeller, and Da Costa. So Marco Wittmann then effectively running in P9 at the moment. Of course, that whole list of cars that I've just been through yet to make their stops.
Good sector 1, keep pushing, keep pushing. We have to close the gap to the front. Also good sector 2, close the gap to the front, consistent drive.
So there is Robert Wickens, and in now comes Tom Blomqvist. And there is the difference, you see. The RBM team with a much faster time than that of the Robert Wickens team. So Wittmann there. And Blomqvist, so it's as they were. And now the nominal race leader is Bruno Spengler. With Augusto Farfus, P2. There is... now this was the stop for Robert Wickens. And it was the front left hand, wasn't it, as we look at it, that caused the problems. Nico Müller then. Ahead of him is Matthias Ekström. Both of those two Audis are yet to stop. Muller is P5, Ekstrom is P4, is our race leader, the BMW driver Bruno Spengler. And it's Augusto Farfus who's being tracked by this man, Paul di Resta, that we're on board with right now. So Paul di Resta.
Box this lap, the pit confirmed.
Being told to box this lap. Robert Wickens and Mike Rockenfeller. Rockenfeller way down the order, so too Gary Paffett. So Robert Wickens makes haste his escape past those. But that 5.3 second pit stop really hurting him. On board with Gary Paffett. Yesterday, of course, on the podium, taking P3. Fine job in qualifying yesterday. So he was at pains to point out in the press conference. It's all about Mercedes-Benz. Not necessarily about who wins. Bruno Spengler then. Then it's Augusto Farfus. We know that Paul di Resta is pitting this time. Indeed so, di Resta into the pit lane. The two BMWs of Spengler and Farfus stay out. We're on board with Paul di Resta then as he makes his way into the pit lane, and the HWA team perhaps needing to do the best pit stop we've seen from Mercedes this afternoon so far. And indeed it is, 2.3 seconds. So HWA doing the job there. With Paul di Resta, just 2.3 seconds. Going to filter out behind Timo Glock, but ahead of Lucas Auer. On board with Timo Glock. Brilliant stop that was. Still to stop, Spengler, Farfus, Ekstrom, Muller, Martin, Molina, Tomczyk, Rockenfeller, Paffett, and Acosta. Minutes of the race remain. Race being led nominally by Bruno Spengler. P2 is Augusto Farfus. P3 is Matthias Ekstrom. P4 is Nico Muller. But it's Wittmann Blomqvist in real terms, who, as you can see, are P5 and P6. In comes Nico Muller. Slows the car down and heads towards the Abt garage. So here's Nico Muller then. Well, 3.2. Not the best we've seen, but certainly not the worst. And Nico Muller back out on track for the remaining 24 minutes of the race. Out behind Eduardo Mortara. There is Edo Mortara. So still 7 cars to pit. One of those is that driver, Bruno Spengler, who is leading. Augusto Farfus still to pit as well, and so too Matthias Ekstrom in P3 as they head up from turn 12 towards turn number 13. Neither of them diving in on this occasion, so staying out there. So Marco Wittmann and Matthias Ekström through turn 1. And the Red Bull liveries. Now Blomqvist is reeling him in. So Wittmann 131.658, 138.40 from Blomqvist last time around. However, when we look at the points chart, we know where Marco Wittmann is. And where Tom Blomqvist is in the points chart is back down there in P10. So I suspect that whatever pace he's got, Marco Wittmann will remain ahead. So this is Wittmann then on Matthias Ekström in replay. And from on board the car there.
My tires are dead, especially the rear left.
Copy, try to do one more lap with Wittmann in the DRS. Use the DRS, you did use it, and then debox the next lap.
So Matthias Ekström complaining of his rear tyres and being told also use DRS and stay out there for one more lap if you can. Under investigation, the incident between car number 2 and car number 16. That's Gary Paffett and Timo Glock. We've not seen that, but whatever it was, it's under investigation. So Ekström does stay out. In comes Martin Tomczyk, I can see from the corner of my eye from the commentary booth here. There is Matthias Ekström in the number 5 Audi. And at the moment, he is the wedge, if you like, between the two BMWs of Marco Wittmann and Tom Blomqvist. Tomczyk there, but he scrubbed enough speed off before see the car really sliding under the braking. Here is Bruno Spengler then. Will it be this time? Well, neither he nor Farfus come in. Ekström will this time. You can see him make for the pit lane. Maxime Martin. So in comes Matthias Ekström. And how quick will the app team be?
31.6.
Pretty darn good.
The car is undrivable.
So 2.6 seconds, and the radio message from Robert Wickens, I don't know if he's got damage because the car is undrivable. There is the Blomqvist car, and there's Maxime Martin. Big off in qualifying. Engineers having to work so hard on the car. His qualifying time being nullified because of them having to start work before the car was released from Parc Fermé, and ended up joining the formation lap from the pit lane. There is Robert Wickens then, who is a bit of a cork in a bottle here. He's got Daniel Juncadella behind him. Then Mike Rockefeller and Timo Glock and Paul di Resta and Lucas Auer. And the list goes on. So what a difference a day makes. Well, Spengler has been in and is on his way out again. It was a 2.7 second stop for Bruno Spengler. The MTech team doing a good job.
Watch your mirrors, watch your mirrors.
And just managing to hold off the Mercedes-Benz of Daniel Juncadella as he returns out on track, does Bruno Spengler. Timo Glock now on the back of
Now we need to push to stay ahead of them.
Juncadella. And that's given Robert Wickens a little bit of a breathing space. Timo Glock all over the back of the Juncadella car. Bruno Spengler then returning following that pit stop. Augusto Farfus still to stop, so too Mike Rockefeller. Maxime Martin under investigation for exceeding the pit lane speed limits.
So Rob, you're in B3. You're in B3. So your front right fling is gone. Front right fling is gone.
Do not use the DRS the next time by, but the next lap you should have DRS.
A 3-second stop for Augusto Farfus from M-Tech. Where is he relative to Robert Wickens? That's why we throw the graphics to the right-hand side of your screen. There goes Robert Wickens comfortably through, as is Bruno Spengler, as is Daniel Juncadella, and not quite Timo Glock. Now under investigation, incident between Paffett and Tomczyk. Okay. Being reported to the stewards. So Bruno Spengler then, and Maxime Martin does get a drive-through penalty for exceeding the pit lane speed limit. And Spengler all over the back of the Mercedes-Benz. It's for the final podium position because it's Wittmann, Blomqvist, Robert Wickens, but Bruno Spengler looking very lively indeed. We know that Robert Wickens has been complaining about the car's drivability. And now off of turn 12, heading up towards turn 13, will Robert Wickens prove to be easy prey for the BMW of Bruno Spengler? So Bruno to the outside, now to the inside, now to the outside. Now if he can get the momentum down and the traction out, but he can't. Well, all the weaving was being done by the aggressor there rather than the defender in defense. Now Spengler gets him up the inside and does go through. Through the corner of my eye, Martin in to serve his drive-through penalty.
Great job, Bruno. Now we go. Now we go.
Well, it was a Mercedes fest yesterday. Now it's a BMW fest today with Wittmann leading. Blomqvist and Spengler.
Rob, it's up to you, mate. If you can do it, stay out. If it's not safe, it's up to you, mate. It's up to you.
Wickens saying he's got no steering. Oh, and there you can see the disappointment.
It's 11 laps to go. 11 laps.
Can he hold on? 11 laps. The points. Hall. Any points is better than no points, and
okay.
He is falling into the prey now of Augusto Farfus. They head up to turn 13. And sorry to say, they are really rather queuing up behind Robert Wickens now. And Farfus is the closest of those. Running in P5 all over the back of the Mercedes-Benz of Robert Wickens. It's a question of when, not if. Juncadella in the mix there as well. A little bit of contact, or was it a lock-up? Timo Glock and Paul di Resta running P7 and P8. We're on with Timo Glock there momentarily as Robert Wickens continues to nurse what he suggests is an ailing car around this 3.9 kilometer circuit here, the Moscow Raceway. It's race 2 of the weekend from DTM as Augusto is all over the back of Robert Wickens, trying to find a way through. Wickens doing a great job to defend, but with another 12.5 minutes of the race still to do, that's a lot of defensive work. Eduardo Mortara on Paul di Resta just at the back of the picture there. Robert Wickens tries to defend the inside line and now goes to the outside. That allows Daniel Juncadella to get a little bit closer to Farfus and Glock to Juncadella as well. A real fraught fight going on here. All the arguments over P4, and there's a huge lock up there. And a spin out for Timo Glock. Now, Paul di Resta we're on board with now. That was a really bold move. Not sure it was on. Well, the incident is under investigation. Would like to see it, and we will see it in replay. Looked to me like there was the lock-up, and Timo goes to turn in, and where he's going to turn into is full of Mercedes-Benz of Paul di Resta and gets spun around as a consequence of that. See it from on board with Eduardo Mortara. From there, it really rather looked like the front end of Paul's car was pushing on and into the side of Timo Glock. So slow zone has been deployed. Slow zone 1, and Augusto Farfus has got past Robert Wickens, who really is struggling now. Wickens' lap times in the 1:33s. Wittmann and Blomqvist are in the 1:30s. All right, the high 1:39.36, 1:39.20. And Glock is out. So he's not coming back from that. And, well, gesticulates to Paul di Resta, I think. So through the slow zone they go. And here it is again. Well, to me, it looked like Paul di Resta's car was understeering there into the side of Timo Glock. But, hey, wouldn't want to be a race steward. Timo Glock is out of the race. So the slow zone deployed whilst the recovery of that car goes on. Augusto Farfus then. Saw him get by Robert Wickens. Times at the moment, they're completely academic because of the slow zone, but Wickens was hugely slower than Wittmann and Blomqvist. Also Spengler come to that as well. So Wickens has behind him now Daniel Juncadella, then it's Eduardo Mortara, then it is Paul di Resta, and it's Eduardo Mortara we're on board with now. Who is P4 in the points, and after this race weekend, we've got 6 races to come for DTM before the 2016 season is rounded out.
Behind you has 4 more DRS left. You have 1 lap DRS left.
So Juncadella then with a DRS deficit relative to the others. So through the slow zone they go. Fantastic splitter cam on the Paul di Resta car as Timo Glock's car is recovered, and once that car is recovered and to safety, then the slow zone area will be
Your slow
green
zone
flagged.
before was good. Your slow zone before was good.
Eduardo Mortara really weaving the car. They look absolutely pedestrian through the slow zone, that's for sure. So Wittmann leading from Blomqvist. On board with Eduardo Mortara. Right behind the car of Daniel Juncadella. As the out of the slow zone and light the cars up once again. The slow zone is ending now because that stricken Timo Glock car has been recovered. So slow zone 1 then returns to green flag.
Green flag, no more slow zone.
So the chase is on for Eduardo Mortara. To the Daniel Juncadella car ahead. Nico Müller taking a look at Lucas Auer.
6 more laps. 6 more laps.
Can Robert Wickens hold on for 6 more laps and bank at least some points? Come the end of the season, how crucial might that be? Let's see just how close Daniel Juncadella is, but Juncadella doing his level best to keep Mortara at bay, but to try and keep this up for a further 6 laps might be a big ask. So Paul di Resta gets a drive-through penalty for the incident with Timo Glock. So that takes him out of the equation in P8 and will therefore elevate Lucas Auer. So Juncadella really acting as a wingman to Robert Wickens here. Wickens clearly has got issues with that car. Lap times down, really struggling with the handling of it. And Daniel Juncadella doing a great job there in corking them all up behind. There's
Di Resta behind you, have a drive through.
On board with Edo Mortara. Well, the two Mercedes drivers working very hard together there to hold off that Audi. And for an ailing car, Robert Wickens doing the best job he possibly can with it. On board with Paul di Resta. His splitter cam then right on the back of Eduardo Mortara. Of course, Paul di Resta is going to take a drive-through penalty for that collision with Timo Glock. To say from all the angles that we saw, I think that's probably the right penalty. Right, Daniel Juncadella is now out of DRS. On the left-hand side of your screen, when the name indicator changes from white to red, that indicates that the DRS availability to that particular driver is gone. So Juncadella with no more DRS, Auer with no more DRS, nor right at the back of the pack, P22, Martin Tomczyk. Right at the front of the pack is Marco Wittmann, who has just under 4 seconds advantage over Tom Blomqvist. They're both lapping in the 1:30.8s, as opposed to Robert Wickens, who last time around was in the 1:33s. Paul di Resta goes in to serve his drive-through penalty. Dennis Wickens has upped the pace a little, but it's still 1:32. Matthias Ekström then and Adrien Tombe, both on Lucas Au, and both go through. The Audi's defeating that Mercedes-Benz. Au is prey, though, with no DRS to either attack or defend. And it's remarkable that still Robert Wickens is driving through the issues he has with that car for P5, with Daniel Juncadella with no DRS, and Eduardo Mortara, who has, but he's just not able to find a way past. Less than 3 minutes of the race remain. Now, Wittmann and Blomqvist are like 15 seconds up the road on Bruno Spengler. It's extraordinary. On board with Eduardo Mortara as he fights hard with the Abd Audi to try and get on terms with the two Mercedes-Benz cars ahead. But even with the DRS deployment, the rear wing dropping down. Gadea and Wickens in P5 and P6. Gary Paffett ahead of Maxime Martin. And Paul de Rester is now also under investigation for failing to manage a slow zone. Drive-through penalty for the incident with Timo Glock, and now under investigation for failing to manage a slow zone. So de Rester now running in P20 and is going to be reported to the stewards at the end of the meeting. So Wittmann, Blomqvist, Spengler, the 1-2-3 for BMW, which is added to the BMW count by Augusto Farfus, P4, before we see Robert Wickens in P5. Before there's a whole train of cars behind him, which includes Daniel Juncadella, Eduardo Mortara, Nico Müller, Matthias Ekstrom and Adrien Tombe rounding out the top 10. We're on board with Eduardo Mortara. It's as much a BMW day today as it was a Mercedes-Benz day yesterday, and conditions have remained dry. Wickens, Juncadella, then Mortara and Müller, then Matthias Ekstrom, and just taking a look at Matthias, there was Adrien Tombe. Marco Wittmann then has a 4.3 seconds advantage over Tom Blomqvist, who is running in P2. It's Bruno Spengler out on his own in P3, and then Augusto Farfus, who is P4. There you can see P1 and P2. BMWs really have proved dominant today. As dominant today as the Mercedes did yesterday, and it should be the last lap. Indeed, confirmation on screen. One more lap for Marco Wittmann and also for Tom Blomqvist. Can Robert Wickens continue to hold on that P5 position for one more lap? There's Augusto going through in P4. And Daniel Juncadella doing everything he can to defend against Eduardo Mortara, but it's not enough now, or is it, as he tries to fight back here, and Nico Müller's going to have a go as well. Could Juncadella lose out 2 positions at the same time? I think he will, because Nico Müller's got the inside line for turn number 1. So Juncadella, who has done a fantastic job as acting as a wingman for Robert Wickens, all of a sudden loses out 2 places, maybe even 3, because Matthias Ekstrom is looking really lively as well now. The very last lap of the race, can Eduardo Mortara catch and go past Robert Wickens? Well, Wickens has been driving that car, which he's been saying on team radio is flailing. It's not handling the way it should, and now he's got Eduardo Mortara and Nico Muller chasing after him. But it is the final lap. And it is going to be a win for Marco Wittmann in Moscow. He takes P1. P2 goes the way of Tom Blomqvist. P3 should go the way of this man, Bruno Spengler. And the BMW lockout continues with Augusto Farfus, who will take P4. Then, as they all approach the final turn, Robert Wickens does his level best to defend that position. Eduardo Mortara around the outside. And Wickens is going to manage to hold on. Daniel Juncadella, though, is mugged right at the end. So Juncadella losing out to Ekstromauer and Molina. Wittmann the winner. Wow, there was some drama around the final turn. But Robert Wickens does bank the points for P5, and well, that could be so crucial. There were times when we heard on the team radio where he felt like he wanted to retire the car. What a BMW fest. One man that will be jumping for joy is Jens Marquardt.
I don't know about jumping for joy, but certainly very joyful. Congratulations, that was a phenomenal race for you today. If I would have told you yesterday that you would have 4 BMWs in the top 4, would you have believed me?
If you would have said that it's dry and sun and everything, I would have thought, yeah, with very much wishful thinking, yes, okay. No, a fantastic race by Marco, but also by Tom and Augusto and Bruno as well. They did a great job. Timo would have done a great job. I think it was really unfair what Paul did there, and unsporty behavior that I think with all the penalties afterwards, maybe some guy has to really think about some things and calm down a little bit. I don't think we need this in DTM, but apart from that, our guys did a fantastic job and good recovery after our not really good rain performance yesterday.
And Marco Wittmann is the leader of the championship again.
Well, that on top, but at the moment, to be honest with you, we're just happy. We'll celebrate and focus then on the next event. But also Team RMG did a fantastic job, as well as RBM, when they got Maxime out again, and he was doing really great. And without the drive-through, who would have known? But it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, good job by everybody, fantastic job, and I'm really happy.
I bet you are. Congratulations, Jens Marquardt, and back to you, Dave.
Thanks very much, Verena. Well, you're right. He's not exactly jumping for joy, but utterly delighted with the way things have gone for the brand, of course, that he represents. Marco Wittmann, Tom Blomqvist, Bruno Spengler, and Augusto Farfus then. The top 4, all BMWs. Robert Wickens did a great job to hold on to P5. And then Eduardo Mortara, Nico Muller, Adrien Tombe, Matthias Ekstrom, Lucas Auer, and Miguel Molina all managing to find their way past Daniel Juncadella. Timo Scheider, P13, the rest of the order you can see there on screen. And actually, Jens makes a very good point there. Who knows, without that drive-through penalty, what Maxime Martin may have done. Of course, he was very quick in qualifying, and it was the off that caused the problems. And, of course, the problems for the engineers in terms of having to try and get that car repaired, which they did, and they got him back out again. And the car didn't fail during the race, did it? So they did a jolly good job. Well, Marco Wittmann celebrates, as does Tom Blomqvist, as does Bruno Spengler. So the drivers will go off to be weighed now, and as Verena quite rightly said, that now means that Marco Wittmann is once again top of the points. This points championship is going to be fantastic all the way to the very end of the season, I feel sure. So Jens Marquardt there in discussions of delight, I would think, as the podium beckons for the drivers in 5-10 minutes time or so after they've been weighed, and of course they will head up the stairs to that podium. Let's take a look at the victorious car then for Marco Wittmann. did everything just right today. And there was the celebrations on the pit wall as the checkered flag was unfurled atop the Marco Wittmann car. And there was the celebration. Well, we were expecting the weather to perhaps play a part in that race, and it didn't. In the end, it has remained dry, and that really playing into the hands of the BMW cars. Tom Blomqvist then takes P2, looks pretty happy about that, and a very, very good and assured drive from Tom Blomqvist. Here then, the Drivers' Championship, it's tight at the top. 130 points, now plays 180 for Robert Wickens. Jamie Green on 104 and Eduardo Mortara on 100 points. So Marco Wittmann then will go to the next round of DTM as points leader as we head off to the Nürburgring. th and 11th of September for the next round of DTM as the 2016 story continues to be told. The format of 2 races per weekend is absolutely brilliant. And whilst the weather played a part in the way the story has unfolded for this weekend, inevitably because it was torrential rain yesterday, and that very much suited the Mercedes-Benz cars. The dry weather today has really suited those BMW cars. Best Mercedes, Robert Wickens then in P5. The best Audi, Eduardo Mortara in P6. And Bruno Spengler, be delighted to be back up on the podium again. This is going to be his first podium of the season for Bruno Spengler. So some super shots of the celebrations going on. As the drivers are being weighed and hustled off up towards the podium. And there's Uli Fritz. Interesting what Jens Marquardt said with regards to the Paul de Resta incident on Timo Glock. There is Bruno Spengler. Tom Blomqvist, though, the man that took it to P2, is with Verena.
You've got to be a really, really happy man. You were just on the fly, and it's got to be said at some point, even you look faster than Wittmann, so you've got to be really, really happy with the second place. Sorry.
Yeah, the pace was really good. It's a bit actually tough at the beginning of the race. I struggled quite a bit with oversteer in the car, but then my car just came to me, you know, and it got better and better, and then I managed to pull away from Robert, and yeah, and the pit stop went well, everything went well, and it was a flawless race really from my team and all the boys after yesterday's disappointment. We didn't get it right at all, but today we managed to turn it around once again and get a great second place, so I'm really happy.
Enjoy it, enjoy the moment on the podium, and congratulations to you. Thank you very much, and I'm just gonna try to grab Marco right there. Marco, congratulations, a fantastic race for you, and you're the leader of the championship again, so you've got to be raving.
Yeah, it was totally a great Sunday with pole position and the win. After yesterday's pretty bad race, we came back and had a really good Sunday, so I'm really happy. The pace was there all day long, and yeah, fantastic race.
Absolutely. Congratulations, and back to you, Dave.
Thanks very much, Verena. Well done for getting Marco even before he's on the podium. Brilliant job. And yeah, he did a fine job. Nice to hear Tom Blomqvist credit the team as well. And good job done by all. So crucial, of course, when they're in for their pit stops to get those done and dusted as quickly and as accurately as possible. The teams spend so much time practicing and rehearsing those, as we see Gary Paffett and Christian Vittoris, two pretty disappointed Mercedes driver, P14 for Vittoris and P18 for Gary Paffett. that the Marco Wittmann car. As he said, he had the pace and had the ability and the confidence to do everything that was needed out there on track, and he did it in style, taking the win here at the Moscow Raceway. Adding to his win, of course, in race 1 at the Red Bull Ring in Austria. And now leading the championship going into the next round at the Nürburgring. It's back down to Verena now.
Well, congratulations. It was a pretty good race for BMW. Obviously, absolutely brilliant. You've got a 3rd place. You happy about that?
Yeah, I'm very happy. I mean, unfortunately, it's coming a bit late, this podium. We have been working hard. There was a few changes in the team. It's normal, it takes a bit of time that everyone gets together, but the team is doing a great job, and we had some difficult times until now. This podium brings some motivation to the mechanics, to the guys, and I'm very happy about that. So thanks to BMW, happy for the podium and happy for Marco.
Off you go to the podium. Congratulations, Bruno. That was pretty...
Verena, I thought you were going up there with him. I really did. There is Bruno Spengler taking his place on the podium. And Marco Wittmann on the top step. Particularly short version of the national anthem. Stefan Reinhold there, of course, for the RMG team, and Jens Marquardt from BMW applauding. Trophy presented to Marco Wittmann. Manfred Sandbichler from Hankook Tires makes the trophy presentation to Stefan then. So the Russian rapper Basta makes the trophy presentation to Tom Blomqvist. And Rustem Truglov then makes the trophy presentation to Bruno Spengler. So Vitaly Petrov there as one of the trophy presenters as well, former Mercedes DTM driver himself. And look at that podium, it's all BMW. Well, the supremely enthusiastic podium announcer, Sergei Bednaruk, fantastic Russian commentator, invites them to enjoy the champagne, and indeed they do. So the story of DTM for 2016 continues as we head off to Nürburgring next. Then it's Budapest, and then the season finale to come at Hockenheim. So still plenty more race action to come. Well, naturally, the teams should be part of the celebrations, slightly unorthodox way. So the discussions going on the podium about the strategy and how it all worked. Well, pretty well, to be fair, didn't it? And great shot of the drivers enjoying their time up there on the podium. So next, it's the Nürburgring in September. Here's Verena once again.
Dave, thank you so much. Wow, what a fantastic race weekend we saw. Yesterday it was all about Mercedes-Benz. Today it's all about BMW. So as you can see, anything is possible in the DTM. And we're going to see you in 3 weeks at the Nürburgring. Till then, here are the highlights. Enjoy. Bye-bye.